Hi YouTube, this is Evie. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are going to be talking about body image and size and age in BDSM. I have been getting so many questions from you guys wondering if you're too old to get started in BDSM, if you have the right body type, if it's going to be hard for you to find a partner, if there are other people with disabilities in BDSM, with mental illnesses, with different forms of gender expression, if you're too tall, too short, if you are too whatever or not enough of whatever to be able to be part of the BDSM community. And honestly, when I get these questions, it really breaks my heart, and I hate that people are too worried that they're not going to fit in to be able to be part of the local community, or to seek out partners, or seek out this thing that they think is going to be really fulfilling for them. And it really just reinforces to me that there's this huge divide between what we see online as BDSM being presented versus what real life BDSM actually is, and how actual people do it, and what parties actually look like. And I've tried on this channel to hopefully give you guys a bit more of a realistic look of what BDSM is like, what going to a dungeon is like, what going to a munch is like, but I haven't necessarily exactly addressed things like age and body image and stuff like that as it relates to being able to find partners, going to parties, being accepted in the community, because again, there is this huge divide between what we see online and then what being part of the real life community is like. And hopefully in this video I will be able to help people get over some of their worries or concerns they're not going to be able to be part of the community. I did a little experiment before I filmed where I just googled some popular different types of BDSM that are often photographed, and I just wanted to see what their representation online was like, because I have an idea of what it's like, and I was pretty spot on, because I assumed that it was mostly going to be thin, young women who are submissive, getting tied up or playing with suave, rich, debonair men that are buff, maybe slightly older, but not any older than 35, and that was pretty much what I got. It was nothing but, not even the first page, but the first pages, like the first 5 pages, were almost entirely young, thin, usually long-haired, usually athletic, flexible, toned women getting put in these beautiful positions, wearing expensive lingerie, doing things with, again, suave, handsome, buff, debonair man of a similar age but slightly older, women almost always being the submissive, the man almost always being the dominant. And that is, again, what we're presented with over and over again online, is this image on Instagram, on Tumblr, on YouTube, because the people who access those sites are either artists who are trying to sell a specific image of what BDSM looks like, which is often sexualized, romanticized, and is made to appeal more or less in the same way that the cover of a paperback romance novel is supposed to appeal. And then we have the people who are actually going about their lives doing BDSM in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, and they are not really posting all of these things on social media, especially with the rise of different kinds of play, such as kitten play and DDLG, being almost entirely populated with, again, these young, thin, beautiful 20-somethings who are Instagram models and who post nude photos on Tumblr. So people are getting this really skewed view of who is actually in the BDSM community, who is allowed to be part of the BDSM community. What we see online is, again, completely 100% different than any experience I have ever had at a dungeon, at a class, at anything in BDSM. The worlds could not be more misaligned than they currently are. It's actually a bit surprising how different these two presentations are. So the first thing I want to address right off the bat is age, because like I said, a lot of people are worried about being too old to be part of BDSM, being too old to find a partner, that they're too late and started, that they've missed their chance to get on this wonderful BDSM bandwagon, because hey, all of these like 18 and 19-year-olds are doing it, and here I am at 30, basically an old hag. What am I doing with my life? Like I've missed out. I've missed these 12 years where it could have been engaging in this lifestyle and finding play partners and finding my footing. But when I've been to play parties, unless they are a TNG play party, a TNG play party, or TNG in general, generally, at least here, means a party where the age is restricted to people 18 to 35 and their partners. So those parties and those munches and stuff definitely skew younger, but if you're going to a general BDSM conference, a class, a dungeon night, the average age at the youngest, if it's not TNG, is 35. If not 40 or even 50. If I'm going to a leather event, the average age is probably people in their mid-50s. Like, it is not a young person's activity. It is not a young person's experience. There's no reason why you can't discover this lifestyle at 18 or 35 or 55 or 80. People come into the scene at all different ages, at all different experience levels, and it really doesn't matter if you came into it at 18 or in your 30s. People don't really care about that as long as you are respectful to the rules, as long as you are actively, openly engaging in good BDSM, wanting to learn more, those kind of just basic skills that apply regardless of where you start at. I would actually say it's more common for people to get started later in life. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think particularly with submissive women, a lot of times we go through this phase, at least probably until our mid-20s, if not later and beyond, where we are really taught that our sexual preferences don't really matter. Our job is to please our partners and do what our partners want. We're not really taught to discuss what our desires are. We're taught that being needy is shameful. We're taught that, any of those things, basically that women are not really allowed to have their own sexuality outside of what they've been told that they need to do, that it's anti-feminist to engage in this kind of play, that it's anti-feminist to be part of the BDSM lifestyle or have BDSM-related desires, that again, being needy and needing somebody else to control you is a sign of weakness or is bad for the relationship. People don't really even know this is a real thing that people engage in a lot of times. They're worried about, oh, nobody wants to do this. I don't want to be that vulnerable with another person. I'd rather just go with the flow and keep doing what I'm doing. And even not necessarily knowing what their desires are, having this sort of vague notion about that kind of thing seems something I might be into. This kind of thing intrigues me, but I'm really kind of realizing their own sexuality or really realizing this is something that they need in their life until they've gone through, 20 years of only really worrying or partners only really being concerned with their own sexuality. And by that I mean as women who have male partners, a lot of times we end up in situations where the man's pleasure is key and the man's orgasm is key, and it doesn't really super duper matter if you orgasm or you're getting what you want out of sex. And this is not to say that BDSM is in any way sexually related, but they do go hand in hand a lot of times when women kind of go through their own sexual awakening, for lack of a better term, oftentimes later in life than just 18, where you realize, okay, no, this is what I want sexually, this is why I want it, I want to find it, I'm motivated. And oftentimes it's also comes with other upheavals in life, possibly a divorce, a breakup, job change in familial situation, whatever it is. You have all this upheaval, and eventually as a woman, you just sit there and go, you know what? Fuck this, I'm gonna get what I want. And and that was basically what happened to me when I got started in the BDSM community. I had been in a long-term vanilla relationship where I was deeply unsatisfied, and I knew that I wanted something else. I wasn't exactly sure what it was, but as soon as I had the opportunity, I was like, I'm gonna get what I want. And as women, we're taught that that is shameful, and so a lot of people don't really go through that until they're later in life, or because they don't feel motivated, they're juggling other obligations like having a young family, like being just starting in their career, not having the flexibility to have the opportunity to engage in BDSM or go to parties, not having the financial stability, 100 different reasons. But a lot of people start later in life, and especially when you're going to things like conventions, most people in their early 20s can't afford $200 plus a hotel room plus transportation plus food to spend an entire weekend at a BDSM resort. So it does definitely skew older, and regardless of what age you are, be that again 18, 35, 55, 80, I have personally not really experienced any ageism in the community. I have people mostly, if I'm a younger person, I'm usually one of the youngest people at these events, if I'm going to be completely honest. There may be another couple that's also in their early 20s, but besides me, I'm almost always the youngest. And being a young person in BDSM, I have had nothing but positive reception from the older members of the community. If anything, they're really fucking excited that there's young people getting started in the lifestyle. They're eager to share their knowledge. They're eager to pass on their traditions, their feeling good that their lifestyle is going to continue even when they no longer can. They feel like they're sort of passing off the torch in a way, and it's really like a group of peers. Like, if I'm having a conversation with somebody in a class, or if I'm having a conversation with somebody when I'm eating lunch, if it's between classes or between events or something like that, I have not really experienced anything where I believe I'm being perceived differently because of my age, either talking to somebody who is my own age or because I'm talking to somebody who's older. And I have personally never treated anybody differently because they are older than I am. And I've not seen that happen. Even when you're at a TNG party and you're having a conversation between somebody who's 35 and somebody who's 18, because it is a big age difference, you're treated as peers because really you're all engaging in the same hobby, and what matters is that you're engaging in that same hobby and you have that shared activity that you really enjoy, as opposed to like having this seniority based on age or feeling alienated or unable to communicate with certain groups just because of the age difference. So again, just to summarize this little section is, no matter what age you are, you're not going to be judged based on how old you are, how young you are. It's no such thing as starting too late. There's no such thing as starting too early unless, you know, you're under 18. But you're not really going to be judged for your age. In terms of finding partners, I do think that can be a little bit difficult, because if you are starting a little bit older, a lot of people are kind of in settled relationships, and a lot of the people who are older are monogamous, or they're in a closed relationships or some kind of closed polycule. But there are a lot of people who are also seeking a lifelong partner that is also engaged in BDSM, be that monogamy, polyamory, an open relationship. And there are a lot of older people that do go to meet and greets, that go to mixers, that go to things that would facilitate dating of some kind. So if you're a mid-30s woman, or even if you're a mid-30s man, I would not worry about being too old to find somebody to settle down with in a BDSM relationship, because there are a ton of people who are your age or older who are looking for the exact same thing and still haven't found it yet. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You're definitely not alone if you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s and haven't found a life partner to engage in BDSM with. There are plenty of other people out there just like you. Now, when it comes to body size, body image, body type in BDSM, I think it's a very similar story to the situation with age, because online you get the presentation that it's young, and then real life it definitely skews a lot older and it's all over the map. Whereas with body type and body size, online it skews thin and athletic, whereas in the real life community it is literally all over the place. I have seen all different body types, all different gender presentations. I have seen people who are thin and short. I have seen people who are big and stocky. I have seen all different types of people. And again, nobody is really judged based on their size. Nobody is like, oh God, nobody wants to tie up that fat cow. Like, people don't say that. And I know I just give that example and it's terrible. If somebody does say that to you, they're a fucking asshole. You shouldn't play with them, because chances are they have a lot of other hang-ups around control, and you do not want to be part of that fucking tornado, let me tell you. But generally speaking, people don't get judged based on their size. People don't get judged based on their body type. I have literally seen every kind of body type. I've seen every kind of different arrangement of body types in relationships. I have seen people who are very thin, very short, suspending and tying up people who were like twice or three times their size, both in terms of height and in terms of just general body composition. I am definitely a completely different size and different age than my partner, Mr. Tex, which is part of where this story is coming from. Is I'm a lot younger than he is, I'm a lot thinner than he is, but that does not impact our relationship at all. It just doesn't. Like, it's like the last thing that I think of when I think about my relationship with him is like our size difference. But when you're as part of the BDSM community, getting started at TNG parties, getting started at play parties, I have not personally witnessed or experienced a situation where people have been made fun of because of their body type, because of their size, because of their physical ability to do a different kind of play. That's just not part of the discussion. It's just not. People don't care about it. And I think this is one of those things that gets like a concern for like the rest of the entire world. People are used to being made fun of for their size. People are used to being belittled. They're used to being talked about behind their back because of what they're able or not able to do because of their size, or just because of how they look or how they dress, how they present their gender, whatever. And so there's this expectation that's going to carry across into the BDSM community. But the BDSM community is, again, completely different than the vanilla everyday life community. People don't go there to judge others. They don't go to parties to gossip behind other people's backs. There is drama, there is gossip, to be sure, but the last reason why that would happen is because somebody thinks that somebody is, oh my god, she's like an Amazon, she's so tall, how could she possibly be submissive? Or, oh my god, that person is like so big, they need to lose some weight. Oh my god, that person is so thin, they need to eat a cheeseburger. Like, that's the last conversation that happens at a party. People are way too concerned about their own play, about their own relationships, about facilitating different dynamics, about the actual play that's going on. If somebody's going to spread gossip, it's going to be about one of those things and not about age or body type or something like that. And again, I have seen just about every different type of body at dungeons. I have seen just about every type of body being a submissive, being a dominant, being somebody who is suspended, being somebody who's in bondage, being somebody who's in latex, being somebody who's in leather, in a corset, in whatever. Like, you don't have to be thin to do any of those things. You don't have to be athletic to do any of those things. People aren't going to make fun of you because you're doing any of those things and you're not the ideal body type. It just doesn't matter. People just don't care. It can be a little bit more difficult, I will admit, to find a long-term partner, especially a monogamous relationship, who doesn't necessarily have any cultural hang-ups about body size and not having somebody who's thin. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that nobody cares about body size at all, but you're not gonna be made fun of for it. It may be more difficult to find a long-term partner, find people to play with, but size is usually one of the last things that people consider, and people who have severe hang-ups around size or around body type for the people they're going to be playing with, they're probably misogynistic assholes, and you probably shouldn't be playing with them because they're probably not very respectful in a lot of other ways. Just saying. Now, I do want to briefly address being differently abled and being part of the BDSM community. I think it's something that really deserves its own video. I would love to talk more about mental health, physical health, chronic pain, chronic illnesses, and how that impacts BDSM and being differently abled, and how that impacts being able to do BDSM and be part of the community. But I unfortunately don't really have anybody personally that I think would work for this format that I could bring onto the show, so hopefully someday that will be a possibility. But again, I do want to just briefly address it here so nobody feels left out. But if you are somebody who is in a wheelchair, has cerebral palsy, has different levels of sight, different levels of hearing, has some other thing that would typically need to be accommodated for, you can 100% expect accommodations at a BDSM conference, a club, a dungeon, as long as you notify them in advance. Especially with conferences, I have not personally noticed any issues with people who are differently able being able to access those spaces. I know people who are hard of hearing who have requested somebody to be able to sign in sign language during BDSM classes, and that has definitely happened. I know people who I've gone to dungeons and they're in a wheelchair, gone to munches and they're in a wheelchair, and people will go out of their way to make sure that they're able to be part of that space. And being in a wheelchair, being hard of hearing, whatever it is that you are dealing with that makes you differently abled, none of those things really cause people to be judged too much. Again, we're a collection of weirdos to begin with. We're all kinky nerds really on the inside, so we all have this shared hobby anyways, this shared interest, and the last thing that people care about or want to do is alienate somebody who is also a kinky weirdo just like they are. So I have gone to dungeons and I've gone to classes where there's not just one person in a wheelchair, but multiple. The last conference I went to, which was Dark Odyssey in San Francisco this past the Veterans Day weekend, I saw at least 2, if not 3 people there in wheelchairs. So you're definitely not alone if you are in a wheelchair and you're wanting to engage in BDSM. Obviously, there are a lot of other people in a similar situation. One of my favorite educators, Lee Harrington, who I will be interviewing if I haven't done so already by the time you guys see this video. He has a story that he's told in some of his bondage classes that I've attended, where he talks about one of the most profound experiences of power exchange that he has ever engaged in has been with somebody who has been disabled and in a wheelchair. So it's not as though you're being alienated because you're in a wheelchair, because obviously there are a lot of other people like it. I have seen people who do rope bondage that are in wheelchairs and have different levels of physical mobility. It's not something that completely ostracizes you from being able to do kinds of play. Different people, of course, will have their own considerations that they will need to make in order to, you know, decide if they want to suspend somebody or play with somebody who has a different level of ability from them, because not everybody is necessarily equipped to know how to work around those different levels of ability, and that is okay. Obviously, if you're somebody who's in a situation, it does make it really hard, but I have seen people who have successfully done suspensions who are paraplegic. I have seen people who've done it who are in wheelchairs or use crutches or do something along those lines. So it definitely is possible, but not every top is necessarily able to prepare for that, I guess is what I would say. But it doesn't necessarily come from a place of maliciousness or like, I don't think these people deserve to be tied. Just about like my risk profile as a top means that I want to be able to do this play as safely as possible with my partner, and I don't yet have the level of skill or the knowledge to know exactly how to distribute this particular weight from the wheelchair accurately in a suspension or something along those lines, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But again, what I would say, if you're differently abled, there are a lot of people like you who are in the community, who have been part of the community for years and years and years, and people are almost always willing to make accommodations. You're not going to be judged or made fun of because of your different level of ability. Again, it may be more difficult to find play partners, but it's definitely not impossible. Nothing is impossible, really, no matter what you're dealing with. As long as you are active with searching, as long as you're an active member of the community, if you've demonstrated that you understand sort of the precepts of BDSM, that is really the major concern that people have. Now, that's all I wanted to get out there in this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Again, your age, your weight, your size, your level of ability does not matter in BDSM. It does not matter. People are just grateful that you're part of the community. They're grateful you're sharing this experience with them. They're eager to get to know you. They're eager to have you be at their munches and their parties and their dungeons. They want you to be there. Your weight, your size, that is the least important thing about you. That's the least important thing that's going to happen. You're not going to be bullied. You're not going to be shamed. People aren't going to talk about you behind their back. And if they do, they're shitty people. They shouldn't be part of the community, and we'd all be better off without them. So anyways, that's just what I wanted to say. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you have any comments or questions, please leave that down in the comment section below. If you want to find more from me, my social media, etc., that will be down in the description box. If you like this video and you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I make videos twice a week. If you want to support this channel because you love it oh so much and you think I should make more videos like this, I highly recommend going to my Patreon. That is what makes all of this possible. I don't even know if I would be on YouTube anymore if I didn't have Patreon at this point, because things have just been so crazy. But thanks to your guys' support, here I am on YouTube making more videos, making better videos. So thank you guys so much for your support on there. And until I see you next time, have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.